You. Well, let's return to Melbourne now, and joining us is Liberal MP Tim Wilson. Tim, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. First of all, can I ask, as a Victorian, how are you doing this morning?
Look, I'm doing fine, but it's a difficult day for Victorians. And of course, we know that many families will be struggling with the new measures that have been put in place. The brutal reality is hearing the word curfew sends a chill down the spines of many Victorians, and justifiably so. And of course, families are getting and managing and preparing for having children back at home instead of at school. People are preparing themselves for what is going to be some very difficult days ahead.
Is this more difficult than the first time around?
Well, resolutely, yes. The first time, well, if we're talking about lockdown 1.0, as it were, there are obviously restrictions on people's liberties, but I think people went in with a spirit or a sense of how would say, a collegiate sense of spirit about us working together. This lockdown feels very different, I think, for a lot of people. The public did the right thing, but we've still ended up in this circumstance. And of course, we've already been through, in some cases, some people nearly a month, others of us a couple of weeks, 3 weeks of lockdown, and now we're just going to get, it's going to get tougher.
So what are, in your electorate especially, what are the people and the businesses, what are they telling you? Is there frustration, or are they starting to, to try and get behind the Premier now, or is there still a fair bit of angst there?
Well, the small businesses I've been speaking to, largely there's rage, to be frank, because they know that this could be the end of them or many of the people they know. And they're very mindful of the impact that's going to come from this lockdown for them. And you go down the main shopping strip that the office I'm in now is on Centre Road in Bentley, and a lot of the shops have closed, and I suspect many of them are going to face difficult choices in the weeks to come.
So, I mean, now it comes to economic help. I mean, there's going to have to be considerable help applied to Victorian businesses moving forward, right?
Well, the first job is, of course, for the state government to come to the party in making sure that it's supporting the Victorian economy and Victorian businesses. And of course, we've already got at a national level expansive programs around JobSeeker and JobKeeper to assist people in making sure they get the help they need at this difficult time that will continue to run over the entire time of this 6-week period and beyond this 6-week period. So measures have already been taken, but there are going to be a lot of small businesses that are really going to struggle.
And paid pandemic leave, is that something that you would support, particularly for those in the health sector?
Well, we already have paid pandemic leave in Victoria. It was introduced by the state government. Now, there's discussions, obviously, with the Commonwealth about what may need to be done, working cooperatively together, and that's the right approach to take. But we already have it, so people don't have an excuse. People have a responsibility to act in an appropriate way, to make sure that if they're getting tested, they self-quarantine until they have answers, and if they are tested positive, that they take the appropriate measures.
The conversation comes back to JobKeeper and JobSeeker, the rate of which was due to come down next month. Should that still happen, or should the current rates be extended?
Well, I think the measures in place are prudent and responsible in the circumstances, and we should continue forward operating on the schedule that the Treasurer has outlined. Now, people have all sorts of different views, and of course there'll be constant changing conditions, but the main thing is to make sure we're supporting people in this difficult time. And as the circumstances unfold, I'm sure every program that the state and federal government are looking at will be reviewed about whether they're still fit for purpose.
Do you actually support this curfew and this latest lockdown?
Well, it's a difficult thing to say. I mean, there are of course choices that the state government has made. I'm not going to undermine those choices because I want to make sure that Victorians are safe. There are a lot of things in this crisis and decisions that have been made that I think could have been made differently up until now. But the main thing is that people obey the law, that they act consistent with making sure we keep the spread of the virus contained, and then we move forward so that hopefully we can get out of this crisis.
There's some comments attributed to Nev Power on The Australian this morning. He believes that businesses that spend money on local expansion should get bigger tax concessions and incentives under reforms that have been flagged by that recovery task force. Is that something that you would agree with and support?
I think we've got to be careful about backing individual proposals at this time, but ideas are welcome. The practical reality is the economic flow-on or consequences of this crisis is going to be substantial. There's no point pretending otherwise. They are. And we're going to have to look at what we need to do to rebuild parts of the Australian economy from the foundations up. And that's what Nev Power and the until recently, COVID Commission has been focused on doing. And I think practical measures which get people into jobs, which get people becoming self-sustaining, and of course small businesses doing the same, is going to be a critical part of that focus.
Okay, Liberal MP Tim Wilson, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Peter.